Hello.
We are Culture Hang. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Holly.
And Holly, why don't you introduce this?
Okay.
I feel like you have the better grasp on what we're doing.
Okay, so a little bit of background. We have just graduated.
Yep.
Great class of 2020 graduated in coronavirus.
2020, yeah.
And so sadly we are far apart, and we've been apart since March, and it's very sad. It's sad for everyone involved.
We are not in the same country.
We're not, actually. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I often don't. We are not in the same country.
So despite those difficulties and adversities, we were talking about like how much we miss just sitting hungover in bed.
Yeah.
Because we lived in a house with 5 other people, so there's a lot of rooms to congregate inside. And I just miss it. I miss that kind of like when you're so hungover, like your bones, like you never really got that hungover, but the vibe of it. But
it was a good vibe. Holly was a lot more hungover than me because she's really a go hard or go home sort of hungover, and it's quite enjoyable to witness from the other side. I'm sure it's not enjoyable for Holly, but I guess the other bit of background is me and Holly just love to rant.
We do.
And we can really rant about anything. And one of those things is pop culture and just things that people probably don't care about, but we for some reason have very big opinions on it. And I guess that's what this podcast is. Half missing each other and half missing a rant about...
When you don't get to rant, it all just builds up inside you and you just feel
It's like a form of meditation for us. It makes us feel better. So we'll get going with the podcast. So Holly,
what we're ranting about this week is all things Kardashians.
Yes.
Whether you love them or you despise them or you don't care, they are a big part of our lives, unfortunately.
I think if you say pop culture in 2020, you've got to include the Kardashians. They are, you know, if you buy a magazine, they are always there. So we couldn't really start a pop culture podcast without mentioning them. Oh. In fact, they were kind of part of why we started this.
They were.
We ranted about them. So what a better way to this podcast. But before we start, let's just reflect on our weeks. So, Holly, what's been your highlight this week? What have you been watching? What's been happening?
Oh, I have to admit, I've fallen down a bit of a true crime podcast spiral.
Same.
Have you?
I have the same, yes.
Oh my God, what have you been listening to? Which ones?
Well, for a bit, I have a podcast, not so much, but I did listen to My Favorite Murder for a bit, which I do really enjoy that podcast. And then I got back into watching the BuzzFeed Unsolved videos.
Oh, there's something about,
those boys. Those boys.
They make it not scary. And I think because I tried to avoid all that stuff for a very long time because I'm a massive scaredy cat. Like, I don't like horror. I was scared of The Woman in Black. I think that was the last scary film I ever watched.
It's just rated a 12.
12.
It is scary. It is scary. I'll give you that.
There's no excuses for it. But I think I was treating BuzzFeed Unsolved initially to like desensitize myself to it, and I was like, and they've just got that perfect balance where they, they've got the like jokey stuff but then also some scary stuff. So I really respect that you've gone back to BuzzFeed Unsolved.
It needed to be done. Anyway, what podcasts have you been listening to?
I've been listening to Red Handed. And I think it's 2 British women.
Oh, I like that.
I do like that.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes with true crime podcasts, if it's not necessarily if it's like all men talking about it.
Yeah.
But I think they just sometimes if it's like violence against women, which a lot of them are,
Yeah.
or like there's a lot of
That's
like
a fair thing to say about murders.
yeah,
Often happen against women.
I wonder why that is. But
Hmm.
I really, when they're a bit, if someone's a bit insensitive about it, or they're talking about like incest or
Yeah.
like rape or something, like I just feel like there's not, there's less of a consideration.
Yeah.
It's not. I haven't listened to every single true crime podcast out there, but
Yeah.
just in my experience, I feel like they cover it quite well. But I was listening to quite a lot of cannibal ones.
But there's something about cannibal murders where I'm half terrified and don't want to hear it, and half like, but how did they do that? And why?
I'm so intrigued by it.
Why?
Also, there was this one that you'll like this because of BuzzFeed Unsolved. So you
Ah.
know when they go to New Orleans and
Yeah.
they go to the Voodoo Temple,
Yeah.
the red-handed people cover, you know, the boyfriend that murdered his girlfriend and put her in like the oven and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a cannibal side of that story, and they covered it on the podcast. So I would really recommend listening to that
Oh
because
my
it's
gosh.
so sad, but it's really
Do you know, on that topic of like cannibalism and ovens, what, like, this just came into my mind. Wasn't it wild that like we were told Hansel and Gretel as children? Because like that's fully just a story about cannibalism.
that hasn't clicked for me.
Isn't that weird? Because as soon as you said ovens and cannibals, I was like,
Oh my God.
we were really told that as children, and they were just like, yeah, you be okay with hearing that. And now, like, I don't really love to hear stuff about cannibals, but as a child, we were there like, yeah, tell me
No.
more about the orphans that were put in an oven.
We're all fattened up with sweets.
Yeah. And like half of it's a dream, half of it's like I know I would get into that situation because I'd be
Yeah.
like, sweet,
Sounds good.
nice old lady. I wouldn't want to offend her either, so I'd just be like,
I know.
yeah, I'll
Polite.
get in the oven. I'm sure there's an explanation for this. But yeah, I do love a true crime podcast and video, and just true crime in general.
Yeah.
There is something about the unsolved that I
Yeah.
enjoy. But what I have been watching a lot this week is not quite the same.
Oh.
It's a reality TV show on
Oh.
ITV2,
Oh my God.
and it's on at like 11 in the morning. So that kind of shows a sign of my unemployment. It is called Dress to Impress,
Oh my God.
and it has to be the best show I've seen recently
Really?
because it's about like there'll be like one woman and three men, and they have like half an hour and £150, and they have to buy her an outfit.
Oh my
and
God.
and she'll like, so last week there was one where the girl's like, I want a like Ibiza pool party outfit. And like some of them get it, some of them are like, okay, that would be shorts. But she'd asked for a swimming costume and like a cover up.
Right.
And like one of the guys got her underwear and then like her, you know, like her body thing, a lace body thing to go
Oh,
over it,
oh my
and
God.
shorts and no shoes. But I think he lost the shorts, so she was just basically wearing underwear with more lacy underwear
Oh
over
my
the top
God.
and no shoes. It's quite the show. I really recommend it, and I've become quite obsessed with it.
Do they have many like success stories? Do people go on to
No,
have happy relationships
not
from
not
this?
one. It is much like Dinner Date. If you've seen Dinner Date,
Oh,
it always ends with like they go on the date and then it's like they never saw each other again. It is much like that in that they go on the date. Oh, but here's the twist. At the end of the date, they both have a card that says yes or no on it, and they have to put it down at the same time, and it's yes or no they want to see each other again.
oh, that's to do it
It's
beside each
awful.
other.
Yeah, so sometimes people, like, one of them will be like, we've had a great date, I'm having so much fun. So they obviously put down yes, and the other person
Oh,
puts down no. But it adds a bit of drama, I will say. 'Cause at first I was like that's cruel. But since I've grown to love it.
it's good
So
telly.
that's my, that's what I've been watching this week.
I love it.
It's probably not good. It's not.
But it's escapism, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think like with all that's going on at the minute, I just don't want to be involved in the real world. I don't think. And even I'm listening to like gross things, or the other one I'm listening to is like ghost stories. But I only found this podcast yesterday, so it's become a bit of a they call Mile Higher, which sounds dodgy, but they do conspiracy, and it's like a husband and wife, and they kind of go over. Yeah, it's just they have a nice chat, and they're quite skeptical about things. So I've listened to all their ghosty ones yesterday. It was lovely way to spend a day. But
recently, I've been, and I've told you about this, I've been shocked by the amount of supportive husbands and boyfriends I've seen online.
Yes.
Because I think I cannot imagine marrying someone and being like, let's start a ghost podcast. Because I just think they'd be like, no, I'm going to the pub. That's what I imagine of marriage.
Oh, that's such a picture of an English guy, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it? And like when people do podcasts together, like how do they not have an argument?
Oh, I don't know.
Because like surely, I feel like that's the sort of thing you have to be in a good marriage. Because if not, if you disagree, that's going to be like a fight for weeks.
And you're recording it as well, and you have to like, do you edit it?
Do you think they edit out like small little spats they have, or like if they had an argument in the morning, do they still go ahead and record, or do they delay it?
I don't know. I want to know. I want to hear a podcast where people have like not an argument, because that's quite uncomfortable, I think, to listen.
But maybe address their argument. I quite like to see when people, like married couples, are like, oh yes, we had a fight this morning. It was something ridiculous, and we're over it now. I quite like that.
Yeah, I like hearing the aftermath and everyone's like made up.
Because I think actually that's a sign of a good marriage, that you can have a fight, and then you both kind of recognize that you were in the wrong, and you move on.
Move on.
Because how do you marry someone for supposedly a lifetime without the occasional spat?
I don't think that's right.
That's not right.
Either you don't know each other or you don't care enough to like be invested.
Exactly. Or you're like ignoring the issues.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see it happening. Because the only person I've lived with that long is my family, and we fight. Because there's no way we wouldn't. That just would be weird. Not that often, and not big fights, but...
No, but you need the little...
Yeah, we have, like, occasionally one of them does something that annoys me, and I will tell them. Anyway, we should probably discuss what we want to
main topic.
Yes, so, Kardashians. Holly, take it away.
I just thought, before we start, we could have our little, like, a disclaimer on how we feel about the Kardashians personally.
Yeah, that would be good.
So how do you feel about the Kardashians?
Well, so I kind of address this in what I'm talking about today, in that I have very much mixed feelings. Because there is the part of me that respects them as businesswomen.
Yeah.
And thinks, you've done a lot. And that's about the only pro I can see, which seems bad, but if you think about what everything else they've done, I'm not saying they're bad people, they're probably great. One, they're immense wealth. Do they need it? No. But that's just a me thing. They don't need that much wealth.
They don't eat the rich, like...
Yeah. It's just a personal thing for me. But I don't think anyone should be a billionaire. I don't see what's so strange about that.
Don't agree with it.
At Kylie, although she might not be a billionaire now. I don't know.
I think she is, because I think that was what the Forbes... Wasn't that what Forbes was about?
Yeah. Anyway, so that I don't like what they do with beauty expectations. Like, I know they're under pressure too, but I don't like it. I mean, I don't like Kim. I mean, you will have an opinion on this. Kim, when she came out with the body foundation thing, and she said it was because of her psoriasis and needing to cover it up. And I have eczema. You have psoriasis. Yeah. And I think both of us kind of thought, I don't care how good that foundation is, there's no way you can cover that up. Because it's flaky. Yeah. And also, why would you want to cover it up? There's nothing wrong with it. People have it. If she has psoriasis, which she does, but surely she should be showing that off and being like to other people out there. I have psoriasis, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's really annoying sometimes, but it's not ugly.
Yeah. It's not,
It's
and it's literally, it's the same thing with like eczema, and also it really irritated me. And I understand that mine is quite mild and it's stress related, so you get flare-ups and you don't. And some people have to be hospitalized for it because it gets so bad. So I understand that's terrible if you have to be hospitalized for it, but I don't think Kim Kardashian has to be hospitalized for her psoriasis. And she was like, she'll keep working for a cure until she finds it. It's like, all right, Kim. People are dying, Kim.
People are dying, Kim. But do you think the people who are in hospital with it are thinking, I really want to cover this up right now? They're thinking, I'm in so much pain. So they're my thoughts on the Kardashians. I tried to watch the show before, I will say.
Oh,
and
it's brain rot, isn't it?
Boring. I don't understand how people watch it. I watched it for the clothing because I'm intrigued, and also to see a bit into their houses and stuff like that, because I'm nosy. So I wanted to see that. But I don't know, I couldn't get through like more than a few episodes without being like, nothing exciting happens here, and the clothes aren't fun. I was expecting more, but as I've said to you, Holly, Kim Kardashian needs to get out of her cycling shorts and give us more flavor, because like grey cycling shorts and a hoodie, give us something more.
Lady Diana was doing it in the 80s.
I know, and even she did it with more flavor. Like she had like a pattern on her top. Kim's just wearing like the most plain things. Give us more. What do you think about them, Holly?
I think they've baffled me. For a very long time. I think because they've kind of been around for as long as we've grown up. Like we're in our 20s now. And I don't really remember a time when they weren't celebrities.
Yeah.
I feel like
especially, I remember when Kylie and Kendall weren't a big thing. But I've always, like, not always, but as long as I can remember, seeing, like, Kim in magazines when I was growing up and stuff like that. And I was always aware of, like, the different ways of how she got fame. I feel like that was something I was told a lot about when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because it's,
like kind of her infamy.
So,
I've just, I think because we're quite close in age to Kendall and Kylie. Probably Kylie.
Yeah.
Like, what, she only 22?
Yeah, I think so.
So, like, it just, the parallels between what their lives must have been like and the kind of lives that we've lived.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and I remember in first year, I think, I remember being in halls when she like unleashed her pregnancy.
Yeah.
That video, and everyone was like,
I remember that,
screaming in my flat, and I was like, what is going on?
Also, aside from my feelings on the Kardashians, I remember watching that video and just thinking it was really nice.
Yes.
It was a lovely video, and I think I had a lot of respect for Kylie at that time because I thought, she's been in like under the spotlight her whole life basically, and she wants this time away with her child, because I get that. But then she did then follow it up by just she doesn't really give the child much privacy, but
now that it's out the womb, it got all private
out the womb into the spotlight.
It is interesting because they've been around for so long, and I feel like they kind of need to have that infamous thing that everyone will talk about, and there'll be like the next big drama, and it's normally like a cheating scandal, because it feels like they've all been cheated on.
Well, that's what makes me sad, because if they've all been cheated on, like, what luck is there for anyone else? like these are like the pinnacle of female beauty at the minute for many people. What are the rest of us meant to do?
What more? What more are you? But I think that might be, not to get all like gendered about it, but that it's like they are the ideal standard of like patriarchal Western beauty, and they've surgically altered themselves to look like this, and they sell it to their vulnerable fans with flat tummy teas and stuff. And it's just, I mean, that's morally corrupt, I think. But it's just not very responsible of it. It's irresponsible.
No, irresponsible.
But I think so they have capitalized on it. They've capitalized on their body. They've capitalized on celebrity. They've seemed to have, I don't know, done it all. Like, they've played the capitalist game and they've won.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. They have.
They have won. They made, and they gave, even though they've got no talents, they've got, what, they don't really have, like, what was it that Chloe was stacking Oreos in the jar, and that was like...
Chloe can stack Oreos and Courtney can eat a Kit Kat in a very specific way.
Oh my God.
That I don't... Have you seen the video? I can't hate because she eats a Kit Kat how I eat a Kit Kat, but I've never made a YouTube tutorial explaining how I eat it, because that's just, I don't know, it's like how people eat Maltesers. I think everyone does it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no need to explain to anyone else how you eat it.
Tutorial as well, like...
I know. It's really not a good reflection of Courtney's personality, if I'm honest. That they were like, do the most exciting thing you can do, and she was like, I know, Kit Kat.
Well, I'm quirky for.
And I say that with a lot of respect towards Courtney. I would say she is one of my favourite Kardashians.
Is she your favourite?
I've grown to respect Chloe a lot, and I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I don't know if it's because when she had her baby, like, how much she wanted that baby.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt for Chloe in that moment. This is the problem with the Kardashians, because I really want to be like full out, I do not like these people, but at the same time, they do reel me back in, because I think everyone wanted happiness for Chloe, and then just when she's about to give birth, she gets cheated on.
Oh, I do remember that. That was drama.
That was sad.
High drama. But it was sad because it's someone's life, and like that's happened with the baby even before the baby's born. Exactly. So it's gonna like shadow everything of that baby's life.
But then on the downside of that then led to her hating on women, on like Twitter and stuff. So there's pros and cons. Anyway, we should probably talk about.
We should get into what we're main talking about. So I'm going to tell you today why the Kardashians might be witches.
I'm very excited to hear this because I only know the basic idea of why they could be witches, but nothing else. So please explain. Seatbelts on.
So I spent probably too long on these terrible trash websites looking for stuff on this. So I'm going to start with the myth, and then I'm going to go on to the misogyny.
Lovely. We love that. Myth and misogyny.
So the earliest one I could find it was this article posted to a website called Studio No in 2012 called Why Are
a reliable source?
Well, it's not written by an anonymous studio writer.
So yes, very reliable.
Reliable sources.
I believe it already. Carry on.
So it's titled Why Are the Kardashians Famous? And then they start with saying we're going to expose the dark history.
No.
And there's a sexist byline that says the Kardashians might be famous because of Paris Hilton.
Okay.
His sex tape. Or society being stupid enough to, and I quote, idolize anything placed on TV, especially if it's pretty, pouting, and argumentative. Oh,
no. Like, here's the thing. Yeah, we don't love the Kardashians, but we'll never hate on why other people like them. Also, we don't hate them. We just don't love what they stand for, like...
No. They could do they could do so much more with their influence and their wealth. And I just think they don't. It is like they
don't get sexist about it. We don't need it.
We don't need it. We're not here for it. No. So I was like, oh well, here we go.
Strap in.
So I was thinking I might just read out the myth to you in full.
Please do. Okay.
So in 1809, so not that long ago, a dark-haired woman strode through the deep forest of Armenia. The rain lashed down through the trees, the water making her robes heavy and thick, but she was determined. The young woman was Keiko Kardashian.
No. Is that another K name? Oh, incredible. Incredible.
So she is the great-great-great-grandmother of Kim, Courtney, and Co. So they haven't written them all out, they've just put Co.
I wish they'd put Co with a K as well, though.
They were like, which one's that?
Who's Co?
So she was beautiful, but her life was hard. At 19 years of age, she just had her first child.
Oh.
That's very sad. But they don't, I mean, she might have been happy.
Yeah, maybe she wanted it. Which is like, as soon as we hear someone like our age or younger having a child, we're automatically like, oh, they must not have wanted that, even though many people do.
That's so weird to me.
Yeah, I know, but we're not mentally ready
Absolutely
for that
not.
responsibility. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, so intent on forging a better future for her offspring, Kekal sought out the witch clan of the Shikahoga Woods. I'm so sorry for that pronunciation. It's terrible.
You tried your hardest, and that's all that counts.
There's no offense meant in that. I'm just
with the greatest respect.
very tired.
This is the result of a lion. We've woken up, and this is what you're getting.
That's what you're getting, top class.
Top class research.
On trash website. Okay. So the witch clan possess powerful magic, and it's magic with a K at the end.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is like an occultist thing.
That's the thing. I mean, listen, I did do a module on witchcraft.
Yes, you did.
I did. I can't say for certain if it is a thing, but I do think it's a thing. But also, I just like to say that I finished that module with an essay on Harry Potter, so I don't know that it's the most reliable source on witchcraft.
That's
okay.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So they had powerful magic, dark spells, and ancient curses that had made them enemies of the Armenian state. So we are in Armenia.
Right.
I should have said that.
I think you did.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
Phew. Now, deep in the dark woods, they practice their arts away from prying eyes of an increasingly modern and intolerant society. I don't know how modern any society, like, I get there was, I mean, this is very Western and terrible, but the Industrial Revolution was kind of going on at the end of the 1700s here. Like, I don't really know what was going on in Armenia.
Yeah, I don't know the state in Armenia, but bear in mind, obviously, well, not to everyone, but obviously to you, I have a obsession with the Victorian period, and the Victorians a lot of them were obsessed with spiritualism. So if that's like what's happening in England, I don't think anywhere's super modern. Like, I think a lot of places probably still happily believe in this sort of thing, and to this day, happily believe in that sort of thing, and that's fine.
It is.
Maybe they're right.
So Kekal walked for days, her dark eyes fixed to the rough and ancient trails of the vanished woodland tribes. I mean, you can already tell from the vibe that this person is it's like fan fiction. It does
seem like that, because the whole time when you're reading it, I'm thinking, this woman sounds beautiful. Like, good for her. I'm sure like, it was just, she's like, her dress is flowing in the wind.
Yeah.
When really she's probably just tired. She's given birth recently. Yeah, she wants a better future. But bless her. Justice for her.
Justice for Kekal.
Kekal, yeah.
Kekal? No, it won't be Kekal.
No, I think it's Kekal.
So, follow your heart, they had told her, and you will find the clan. But be careful, they had said, for the witches will demand much of you, much more than you can imagine. Finally, Kekal came upon a clearing. There was too many I can't.
Kekal came upon... Oh, I can't even say it.
Kekal came upon a clearing, gnarled trees rose up from the earth like tortured hands. Beyond the rough clearing, beyond the dark earth, the mouth of the cave gaped like the throat of a beast. Like, it's so dramatic. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was kind of a beautiful image, though.
I love this paragraph. Like, I'm listening to it.
Good for them.
Faint traces of flame cast shadow in the depths, ghostly tremors of light and movement. Witches, Kekal cried, hear me! Her words echoed.
It's a mood, though. Like, things are going wrong in your life, so you just go out to the clearing and just shout, witches.
Do you know, that is such a Bella Swan, like...
Oh my god.
Bella in New Moon mood, as she like tramples the meadow and gets
watching
nearly killed.
She She was not doing well. Much like Kiko.
That's what we should have wrote a dissertation on.
Oh,
The
I
parallel
honestly...
between Kiko and Bella.
We missed a trick there.
Oh, R.I.P. So, her words echoed back from the cave, unnatural and stripped of all humanity. I come seeking a better future for my kin. I offer all you wish to take. I offer my soul. Soul,
Oh.
soul, soul, the world echoed back. Each repetition louder than the first. It's very, dramatic.
Very.
Movement, solid movement from within. Cloaked and hooded figures began to emerge. They moved like floating mud, connected to the ground, to the soul of ancient earth. Soul, you say? Said the first. I feel like they're going to turn into like the Macbeth witches at some point.
That's what I'm thinking. I hope they do. Shakespeare could never. This is what he tried to write, and he couldn't.
He couldn't write it.
No.
A woman's voice, but something more, something stronger. 4 witches now stood in the clearing, eyes fixed upon Kiko from beneath their tattered hoods. A soul? You have a soul to give? I have a strong heart, but my life is troubled, said Kiko.
Oh.
Poor Kiko.
No.
No matter how hard I try, I cannot make my way in this world. I ask nothing for myself, but I ask you now give fame, fortune, and physical beauty to my offspring.
What an odd thing to ask for. Like, surely you'd just be like, yeah, I hope they're happy and they're always well fed. Like,
yeah.
Kiko's not doing well. She's not getting what she wants out of life, but she asks them for them to have physical beauty.
Yep.
Never once is she like, can they just be happy? Can they be happy? Maybe that's why the Kardashians always have all these issues.
Not happy. Yeah.
She never asks for happiness.
Well, we'll get onto that later. Don't you worry. So she asked for fame, fortune, and physical beauty for her offspring and to future generations of Kardashians. Make the Kardashians famous and free them from my toil. So, I mean, this bit's kind of boring. And it's all like, are you sure it's fame, fortune, and beauty?
Right,
like,
okay.
And so then they say, and so it shall be, but you first must do the dance of the Shikaho. The other witch cried with glee, the dance, shall do the dance of Shikaho. So then she stepped closer and then she said, I'll do it, tell me how. So, ever practical, she just gets on with it.
I'll do it, but I don't know the moves.
So this is where it kind of falls apart, and I have theories about this, but we'll get to them later. So she submitted to the dance of Shikaho, an ancient dance that the witches enjoyed more than any other. They ordered Kiko to disrobe to stand naked in front of them, so she did. She stood in all her perfection upon the dark earth of the clearing, and the rain began to fall upon her perfectly formed breasts. Uh-oh, this was written by a man.
Yeah, so just the breasts, like the rest of her body.
So, but he's led with the breasts.
Oh, okay.
Perfectly formed breasts, her smooth thighs, her straight hair.
Is any breast perfectly formed? Like, isn't the thing about breasts that like much like eyebrows, they are sisters, not twins. They are not the same. So stop implying like, yes, they are perfect. Every breast is perfect, but they're not like perfectly formed. They're doing their best.
In the male mind.
If you hear that written, it's not by a woman.
No, it's not.
I can guarantee you, pretty much.
Especially because he led with a perfectly formed breast, and he ended with the cleft of her exquisitely formed buttocks.
Yeah, I saw that coming. Of course he did.
So the witches then adorned her for the dance. They placed a hedgehog on her head. They hung a leopard's tail from her buttocks. Clench, they cried. Clench. They affixed.
This is good. This has gotten good.
But does that mean that it was? I mean, we don't have. It's not like going in her hole. Is it like going in between? Because
I think in between.
I hope it's in between.
Let's hope. It's not going well for her.
It's really not. I feel sorry for her.
Same.
Especially because she's been written by this man. So then they put tiny beaks of 2 snowcocks to her protruding nipples. I don't know what snowcocks is.
They did.
And then she had bare feet on.
Okay.
And then they said, now dance. She was a terrible dancer, but she tried. Oh, how she tried. The witches were happy and they began to sing in bouts of hysterical laughter.
Okay.
And they basically call her, what a fool she looks, what a tit. and she dances with a hog on her head and a bear on her feet.
That's
So
sad.
it's really sad, isn't
Not
it?
a happy tale. So that's a legitimate myth? Like,
I
do
really
we
don't
know?
know. Well, we'll get onto the validity of it in a second because there's, believe it or not, there's more to this.
There's more?
There's
I
more.
kind of thought that was the sad ending.
Yeah.
They laughed at her and boom, soul's
So
gone.
maybe we should try it and see if our soul leaves us.
We just like shout abuse at each other. You're a terrible dancer.
Oh, tit. So the witches, ew. Okay, I've just read this. Witches laughed uncontrollably, snorting and cackling, and occasionally releasing foul-smelling farts as they watched her perform.
How funny was it? Like, how bad of a dancer was she that she had this effect?
I've just had an image, you know, in Arrested Development where they're trying to do the chicken dance and they come with a hedgehog on it.
Oh my god. I'll never not imagine that. That's the sort of dancing.
Kiko with the friggin'. Oh, bless her. So, they had taken her dignity for their own amusement. They'd also drawn impressively detailed sketches of the dancing Kiko, which they later sold to the Armenian press. Now,
The witches did?
Yeah.
It's like if the witch was like went to the Sun here and they were like, have these pictures of a random woman living in poverty and laugh at her.
We made her dance and you know.
And she was bad at it.
And then apparently they then spread gossip. I say apparently, according to this, like it's real.
Apparently.
They then spread gossip through the nation, telling of her ridiculous dance. And so it was. So it began. Kiko returned to her village, but her family and friends shunned her. She'd become a joke in society. So she returned where she remained. She returned to the woods, where she remained isolated, alone, with only her child for company.
Oh.
So she was down to loneliness, but her child and all the female descendants received the witch clan of what they promised. So, like, fame, fortune, and physical beauty, and nothing more. Talent, wisdom, dignity, such things have been lost to the line of Kardashian women, but they always have a strange capacity for achieving fame, fortune, and like they just keep saying nothing more. And that is why the Kardashians are famous. And at least it seems to make as much sense as any other theory. So,
okay.
my main points that I felt about this, that it felt like fan fiction. It was just like someone had taken a version of how Kim Kardashian became famous. So like having to do this like ritualistic dance to humiliate herself, and like Kim Kardashian's sex tape must have been deeply humiliating. But what did she get from it?
Also,
her whole family became famous.
The description of the woman in the story, like as you described it, I thought it sounded very much like how someone might describe Kim Kardashian. Like it, I don't know. As you were saying it, I was like, yeah, this sounds like they've just thought, Kim Kardashian, written it down because, you know, it does sound like her. So I do think, there is a lot of parallels there. I'll give you that.
Raw. So the writer. I looked at the comments at the bottom of the thing, and the writer has listed the sources that they found it from, and then people are like, you literally Google it, and you can tell that these things don't exist. They claimed that one of the copies of the books they read is in the Walter F. Blump library, which doesn't exist.
He made up a library?
He made up a library?
Couldn't he have said a real library? Like, I'm sure...
You would think.
People wouldn't look into it then, I think. No. Like, if you saw a library and you're like, I think that's a fake name, you'd look it up. But if you gave a real library, you'd just be like, seems legit. Like, I'm easily swayed.
Walter F. Blump.
Immediately, I think, no, not real.
No. So then I was thinking about, like, the symbolism, because, you know, we've just done an English Lit degree.
Yeah.
So the parts of the story, that it could be like, you know, Kardashian women looking out for their family, and that's like the first and foremost thing.
I like that aspect.
Yeah.
And they seem like a nice, like, in terms of family, they always spend Christmas together.
Yeah.
That aspect seems nice. I like that reading of it.
But then also, like, the witches could be like viewership on One Society. So she has to be humiliated by society in order to achieve what she wants. So that's kind of like where I was reading it. But then there is a Twitter thread which we could link in our bio. And I'll link to this other one because I'm not trying to steal anyone's content.
Yeah.
It's just we're just here.
We didn't come up with this.
We did not come up with this.
We didn't write that.
I'm not putting my name.
We could have written something much better.
So 100%. So I think that was published in 2012, or so they say. But then there's another. It kind of resurfaced in 2015, which I think is interesting. That it kind of like goes away and then comes back.
Yeah.
And so there was a Twitter thread I found titled "Kardashian Illuminati Witchcraft Story Exposed."
When did the Illuminati come into this?
Don't know. But then they started spelling clan with a K, and that really just freaked me out. I was like, don't do that.
No.
So then they link some like theories that Kanye's video for his thing Fade. I've not actually watched it.
I've not seen that video, I don't think.
But they say that parts of this video where she must be a model or actress, Tiana Taylor dances exuberantly, half naked and wearing a cat's tail in the video.
Oh.
And she had a weird thing to say about it, that the video is deeper than people probably realised, and there's something going on under the surface, which people speculate is like him looking back to this myth.
Okay. I guess. Or maybe he was just like, attractive woman dancing?
And she is like basically naked in this, like from like the clip.
And she has a cat tail?
Yeah, she has a cat tail.
That bit I don't get. I feel like if you could go further into the cat tail and convince me of something, not necessarily witchcraft, but you could maybe convince me of like maybe Kanye fancies cats or something. You can convince me of something. Yeah, because like that bit doesn't make sense. I get the rest, but then the cat tail, that's a bit odd.
I want to see a hedgehog on a head and bear claws on her feet, and then I would believe.
Give me more. Like if Kanye did that, I'd be like, yep, seems legit. Now I believe. But
also on this thread, there was this really weird. I know this is a bit off topic, but there's this weird infomercial of Kris Jenner from like it looks like early 2000s, where people are saying like, oh well, they're linked to the occult and they've like present all these weird things, and so she's promoting manifestation candles in front of this huge butterfly. You just can't take your eyes, like it's fake on a wall. And so this American witch called Brie Luna named Kris as the most likely witch in pop culture. And she was like, she literally was selling manifestation candles at one point, and people are like, come on.
It's quite the title to have.
And then the other stuff they were trying to like pin on them, that they've been around Marina Abramovich's parties.
Okay.
And she's a performance artist who does a lot of like stuff with like blood and body, and I can't remember what her but I think there's a video from one of her parties where they brought out, they must have been like food or like cake, but they looked like cadavers, and then people were like cutting into them and like savaging them apart.
Oh no.
And eating from the bodies. So people are like, oh well, they must be part of this.
They must be.
There's no other explanation.
I think maybe someone could convince me of it if they tried hard. But my thought like against it, and I guess maybe this is against and for it, is the Kardashians are very religious people. They you know when
God, don't they? They always are like
when they like, you know when you say like, oh I swear to God, or and stuff like that, and that's kind of a normal phrase, but instead of saying that they always say Bible. So if you like in a couple of videos I've seen, it's kind of odd. They'll be like, you know, like you'll be like, I swear on my mother's grave or whatever. Instead of doing that, they're just like Bible. Like I did not do that, Bible.
Which, that's weird.
Yeah, and Kanye is a very religious man, had his whole album with the gospel choir. They are religious people, and I guess you could argue that like, oh, they're witches and they're like, it's all a joke and it's just them hiding their witchiness, but I don't know, they do seem very religious people. to me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like ritualistic stuff, it's not that much different. So why would they be practicing Christians or like
Yeah,
being that religious and then not like why would you do two? I feel like you
yeah.
do one or the other.
And I think like being a witch, there are celebrities that I've probably got the terminology wrong. Is it like they're Wiccan? There are
Yeah,
celebrities that
yeah,
are
yeah.
Wiccan. That
Yeah.
is a thing. So if they were, they I don't know that they would necessarily be ashamed to acknowledge it
No,
because
because
it'd probably be something they'd show on their show, being like, oh, we're just going
mm.
to a Wiccan meeting. Um,
Want
whereas
to
like
join?
if maybe you went more into like the cannibalistic soul selling stuff,
Yeah,
maybe there's some. I mean, there probably isn't, but it makes for a fun story.
it does, and I
Yeah.
think, but then the other side of that is there's a Kardashian curse, which I feel like we might be more familiar with.
Yeah.
So I think it was either Kylie or Kim. I don't know who said it.
Oh, no.
2016. That one of them said the Kardashian curse is every male figure that comes and dates a Kardashian, their life just goes downhill after that. So,
Oh,
which is
right.
one actually that's sad, but
That is sad.
also is it a way to like I don't know to say that there's something else going on other than it just being like this
Possibly.
strong matriarchal family, and it's like, oh, the poor men, how can they not be men? Like they must be draining their male energy, which is just I think it was Chloe. She said, oh yeah, we need new male energy, and then
um.
fans think that they drain male energy for their coven, and then the bad things happen to the men in Kardashians' lives once they threaten to expose all their secrets and tell all stories. And this was written at the same time that like Rob Kardashian was going through all the stuff with Black China.
Yeah. Well, my thought would be that okay, maybe their lives go downhill after they like break up with Kardashians, but a lot of people's lives go downhill after breakups. I don't think you can claim that that's you doing that. Like a lot of people have a hard time
Yeah,
because like, if you've been married to someone, it's not exactly easy to then be like, "Oh, yes, no longer married, moving on."
and it's
And
so
also,
public as well.
yeah, they do expose the people they've been
Mm.
with. Like I can't remember his name, but that guy that Kim married for like
Oh, he was called.
a few days.
Was he
And
called
they
Chris?
weren't married. Chris? Was
I
he?
think
I don't know.
I,
People will know.
people know. I think
But
it was a
they kind of,
73-day marriage.
yeah, it wasn't long. And
No.
he was like, he came out afterwards and was like, she did it for attention. And they basically, I think they said bad stuff about him in the press and stuff. So,
Oh, fully.
and that's probably pretty embarrassing for him that he married a woman and they didn't even make it a year. So yeah, his life would go down. And then she's saying like, I remember she said like, why if I was going to marry someone for attention, wouldn't I marry someone more famous? And like
Oh
that's
my
like
God.
true, but like that's not an easy thing. That's kind of embarrassing, right? So yeah, his life went
Absolutely.
downhill. So I don't think they can claim like it's because we're witches and we drain male energy. They just
Absolutely.
yeah. Oh yeah, because you put research into that.
I just kind of fell
It
down a
was
rabbit
well
hole
researched. I'll
and I
give you
enjoyed
that.
it.
Which
Because you have the summary of the misogyny part of it. It's
yeah,
basically just like people trying to find reasons as why they're famous, and they don't have reasons why they're famous, or the reasons they're famous are very superficial.
yeah,
Um, so it's like, well, they have to have a reason. They've got to be stealing the souls of men or hexing people. But it's like, is it threatening that they don't actually need men? And the only kind of
yeah.
iconography you can get of a group of women who are self-sufficient is a
Yeah,
coven of witches, because there's this other
that's true. I like
yeah,
that.
because there's this clip of Scott Disick walking around an art gallery with Rob Kardashian,
Yeah,
and they see this 18th century painting of, I think it might be, I don't know if it's witches or not, but it's one of those
yeah.
like old paintings.
Mhm.
And he says, "Oh, look, it's the Kardashian sisters," and it's like, it's like,
That's pretty funny.
yeah, but it's like,
um,
do we not have any other point of reference for a group of women who like all are self-sufficient? I suppose it's either
yeah,
witches or nuns.
this is true. That is a good. I like that comparison, and I do think it's based in like sexism. But maybe the thing is they're just, or jealousy maybe, but they're successful, and whether you like how they got that success and whether you don't like it, they are successful. And this is a good segue. A reason for why they're successful.
Oh, I'm excited.
Here we go. Kris Jenner as a momager.
Yes.
So basically, I'm going to talk about momagers, which mainly about Kris Jenner, but we'll mention some other honourable mentions in here. Yeah. But what I learned is that, I don't know, maybe this is common knowledge, Kris Jenner actually owns the term momager. She trademarked it.
No.
So no one else, like, obviously you could say it in your own home, but no one else can officially, like, call themselves a momager. She is the momager. Everyone else is just a manager of their children. She is the momager. Which
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like, oh, she's a momager, but she owns it.
I kind of, unless I'm wrong, I thought that she wouldn't manage her children anymore, but she does.
She still does.
Yeah. So unless I've got that wrong, or like there is someone helping, I don't know. But from what I could tell, from what I looked into, she still manages them.
That's mad.
And I guess she's doing a good job, so we can't hate too much. But I'm interested in the long-term effects of being a momager and managing your child in general. And is it healthy?
No.
Yeah. Because obviously, to me, it's like, I think it would put your children in competition with each other, especially if you are. Because I read that Britney Spears' mum used to manage her, and eventually stopped managing her to manage the younger sister.
Oh.
And okay, maybe that's not fully fact, but that is what I read. And if you were Britney Spears, wouldn't you feel a bit like, oh, so am I like a has-been now? Am I not as valuable now? My sister's the one that's gonna make money.
Who's her sister? Like, I don't know who Britney Spears' sister is.
Do you know the show Zoe 101?
Yeah.
Her sister was the main character in Zoe 101.
Was she?
Yeah. So they had to cancel the show because she got pregnant.
Oh no.
So like her mum put all the time and energy into the younger sister.
And she got pregnant.
Sister to get pregnant at like 16. And she's happy now. She has the child. But anyway. So momagers, honourable mentions, I would say. For me, growing up, I always was aware that, you know, when all the stuff was going down with Lindsay Lohan, I used to read a lot about that in magazines. She was getting arrested a lot.
Yeah.
Her mum managed her, and they used to have a lot of differences, I believe. But they have a good relationship now. She no longer manages her, so that's a good outcome.
Yeah, I like hearing that.
One of the other most famous ones, I would say, is Beyonce.
Yeah.
Beyonce's dad managed her, and the reason she eventually fired him was because he cheated on her mum, and like the woman he cheated on with was having his baby. So at that point she was like, no more, which I like a lot. Like, shows she really respects her mum as well. But she was like, no. But also it then came out later that potentially or allegedly he was also taking money from her. So all in all, that's kind of the dark side of managing your children. That I don't think she has a good relationship with her dad anymore, and like you've completely lost that trust then.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially if they controlled what is the, I suppose, with what's going on with Britney, and I'd like to talk about it in a separate podcast because we love Britney Spears.
We love Britney.
Even before the dark stuff started coming out, but like we were big, just love to check in on her. She, like, her dad's and the conservatorship, is that like the most extreme?
I think that is the most extreme.
But is everyone else on that kind of spectrum that you can still make a lot of money?
I think as soon as I don't think, unless your child is under 18, and even then, you should not have that much control over your child that you can control their money and aspects of their life. I don't think any parent should be in control of their children's money to the point that they could take it.
Yeah.
And
it's exploitative. Like,
the real dark side is definitely Britney, because like that is the absolute extreme of even in her 30s, her dad's still controlling her, which is sad. And
It's so sad.
that is I would say Kris Jenner is probably on the opposite side of that because she's made it work. She seems to have a good relationship with her children. There is a lot of pros to her managing them.
Well, it seems to work, doesn't it?
Like they're all doing very well. But the absolute con is that it can go to the lens of like Beyonce and then to Britney, because that's not what you want for a relationship with your children. And then this person isn't technically a momager, but I think very interesting parallel to Kris, and I couldn't not mention her. It's Yolanda Hadid.
Oh, yes. I had me loved Real Housewives, like most of those seasons, so I'm well acquainted with. She was always a bit creepy, Yolanda. Like, she always had this. It was almost like she was trying to present herself as this very like holistic. You know, she'd go out and be filmed picking bloody lemons from a garden and stuff, and being like, "Ooh, yes, I eat 12 lemons a day with my beautiful husband." But like, it was always really creepy in the way that she would like control her daughter's image.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I'm talking about it, because that control is, I think that's what comes with managing your children, and I really think she does that to a worrying amount with Gigi, or used to. There's a lot of clips of this on YouTube, you can easily find them. My favourite is one when she discouraged Gigi from playing volleyball, even though she enjoyed it, because women who played volleyball were big and bulky, and she didn't want Gigi to be big and bulky. Number 2, she discourages Gigi from eating her graduation cake.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And even though she bought the graduation cake, like Yolanda brings the cake, and I guess was like, everyone else can have it, but
oh my god.
I think eventually Gigi does have some of it, but her mum's not happy. Then this one I didn't know about before. I think it was maybe from an interview. Yolanda didn't want Gigi to live in dorms when she went to university, because I think this one you can really see she kind of alienates her from other people her age is what I would say, because she doesn't want her to go out and party and get drunk like other students do, and she wants her to focus on her career instead. So Gigi essentially went to university, I think dropped out after a bit, but wasn't allowed to have the experience.
Yes, because I remember watching, I think I saw that episode, and she was like, oh yeah, I don't want it to be in halls. So she bought her an apartment in New York, and it's like right in the center. So obviously, I mean, I know they're rich and whatever, but like she bought her this apartment to live by herself. And then I think she dropped out because that's when she became like the biggest supermodel in the world.
Of course, that's gonna like alienate you from other people. Like, imagine being in seminars and lectures with Gigi Hadid, and on top of that, she's not going out. She doesn't want to drink. And not that you have to drink, but she doesn't even want to like go to like the bars and
breakfast.
Stuff like that.
You can't go to like.
She doesn't want to do any. I mean, imagine going to breakfast with her, and her mum's like, "Yeah, you can't even have. You can have egg whites. That's it." So, and that leads on to my favorite moment as Yolanda's, which I saw on TikTok recently. So credit to TikTok, is that Gigi was on an intense cleanse that I think Yolanda had orchestrated, and she calls her mum saying she's hungry, and Yolanda tells her to chew on half an almond when she's hungry.
Oh my god.
To chew slowly or something like that. And that, even though, as far as I'm aware, Yolanda never managed Gigi, that is managing. Like, like, her daughter's away from her, she's got a career, and I see a lot of comments that are like, yeah, but Yolanda knows what it's like to model, she knows how difficult it is, she knows that you have to be slim. No, you should never impart that on your children. You should never, if your child calls you and says, I'm hungry, tell them to eat. Don't tell them chew half an almond. They're
so unhealthy.
If your body is hungry, eat. So that is the control, again, that I don't think you should have over your children. That seems unhealthy to me. So that leads me to our favourite Kris Jenner, who in part I do have a lot of respect for, in parts I don't. So the pro of her managing her children is their extreme success. The con is for me, I think it leads to her, maybe not willingly, but to favour certain children for their monetary value. Because it was always a joke on the Kardashians that Kim was the favourite.
Yeah.
Because she was the most successful. And then Kylie was afterwards because she made billions. This is something that Kim literally addresses. I'm quoting her, and she says, "I was my mum's favourite for a good decade, and now it's Kylie." And that's worrying.
Oh my God.
It wasn't it's even more worrying the fact that it's in response to her picking favourites out of her own children.
Ooh.
So Kanye asks her, basically says to her, "I don't think it's healthy to pick favourites." And she's like, "Well, I was my mum's favourite, and then it was Kylie." So
oh my
that's
God.
super worrying, and it kind of shows that then that goes down to the next generation. And there's a clip, and for the life of me, I couldn't find this clip, but I have seen it, where Courtney does a similar thing, where she says that one of her children is the most beautiful, and whoever she's with is like, you can't pick favourites or something.
Oh my God.
But, yeah. So that's the worrying aspect, that's then just dripping down into a new generation of possibly them making their children feel more loved. Probably not more loved, but definitely.
But do you know, I don't always think about this, but I think if you're going to have, well, I suppose you don't know with your child, but I mean, it's like nature versus nurture. Like, the way you nurture that child will have the biggest impact on the way that they're brought into the world. But if you feel like it's going to play favourites, why would you have more children?
I know.
Like, just have one child.
Have one child. That makes sense.
So that it eliminates that possibility, because say, I don't even, Kim Kardashian's got 4 children.
Yeah.
Kourtney's got loads of children.
Yeah.
You would just think, if that's the environment, that's going to screw you up so badly.
I think from the perspective of the sisters that aren't Kim and Kylie, you would especially want, when you have children, for none of them to feel like they're the favourite or not the favourite, because that must have been, as much as they joke about it, surely that wasn't an enjoyable thing, because as I was reading up on it, I haven't seen the episode, but apparently there's a whole episode where Khloe gets her first magazine cover, and instead of going to celebrate with Khloe, Chris goes to a random thing with Kim instead. And I just think that's also another downside of managing your children, that even if you're not trying to, they will think that you've got your favourites based on who's doing more successful. And if one child's in this industry and another one just has an ordinary job, you're obviously going to spend all your time with the one in the industry.
Yeah.
And then I think that leads to the other child being like, oh, well, I'm not good enough. But I will say there's 2 examples of Kris Jenner's mumagering that I think are the most quotable things she's ever said. And I could not, and they're definitely problematic, but I couldn't not mention them. So number 1 is from the infamous Playboy photo shoot, where she says the famous line, "You're doing amazing, sweetie." And she photographs her nude child taking photos for a sleazy magazine.
Oh dear.
And then the second one, in a similar vein, is her response to Kim's sex tape being not leaked. And she says, "When I first heard about Kim's tape, as her mother I wanted to kill her, but as her manager I knew I had a job to do." And I think that's the main example of the issues with managing your children, because she knew, as her mother, she was like, I'm not happy about this, but she had to ignore that instinct to be the manager, so she couldn't sit Kim down and be like, and not that there was anything wrong with Kim releasing her sex tape, but it just blurs the line too much of being someone's mum.
How do you split it? And surely you'd think being the mum is the more important role. But I don't know if that's I don't know. I've got a good relationship with my mum, so I would think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree.
But is it exploitative? Is it?
I think so, because in terms, like I was saying about it spreading to a new generation, I think you can, and I think Kim's probably a great mother, but you can kind of see it in that the way she does the Christmas cards. I don't know if you saw the Christmas pictures this year, well, last year, and they included all of her children, and it's just, for me, a bit of a way of being like making money out of your children, because there are all these just very over the top Christmas pictures. Like, they're dressed as the Flintstones in one, and like aliens in another. Like, they're
Oh
so
yes, I have. I
funny.
remember them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that for me is like, take them for your own family, fine. But the fact that they had to do so many and share them on
It
Instagram,
was on Instagram, wasn't
it's
it?
like,
Like they were
that's a
everywhere.
way. Yeah, that's a way of making money out of your children. That's not just having fun. That's being like, look at us. And she had to Photoshop like some of the children because they didn't want to be in the pictures.
Oh yeah.
And then also there was like an allegation that she had Photoshopped North at one point to make
Yes,
her
I
look
remember
slimmer.
that. Yeah.
And if you look at the picture, it does look like she has made it look slimmer. I'm not saying she has or she hasn't, but I think that's the word, like what it leads to is seeing your children as ways to make money rather than like things that you gave birth to, and you want to grow up in the best way possible. And again, I do think they're probably great mothers, and there's sides we don't see, but from what I do see, I think it's worrying.
Yeah, and they put so much of it out there. Like, they've got show, they're being on, like, Instagram is constant. And it does make you think, like, what are the children going to do? The children want to go completely, like, off the grid? Or are they going to be, is it, like, just going to self-perpetuate and then we are at the end of humanity, I think? Because it's like...
Honestly, the only way I can see this going, and maybe it won't go this way, is by just the Kardashians going on for new generations and new generations and new generations, because that's kind of what happened with Kylie, like, and Kendall. They grew up in the spotlight, and now Kylie's had a child that will also grow up in the spotlight, and then you don't know any different way. And I guess, like, I don't really see any of their children suddenly being like, you know what, I'm going to go to university and do this, when it's so easy to just be like, well, I've got my own TV show, like, guaranteed. And I just think it's too much control to have over your child's life. And I don't know that it's healthy to have your child in the spotlight that much. Which is why a lot of celebrities, like, will hide their children's face and not allow paparazzi to take pictures of them, which I understand a lot more.
Until they can consent to having that. Because I think a lot of it is like, I mean, I think our ideas about privacy are, it's kind of like we're they pull the wool over our eyes a little bit. I think we don't have, in this like digital age, I think for the sake of comfort, so you can see whether there's traffic ahead of you when you're driving in a car, you've given away all of your, they know exactly where you are, what you're doing. And it's like, you think it's fine because you're not doing anything nefarious. But in that, if you were so exposed, how do you just not have any privacy? Do you just grow up with that? Do you seek it out somewhere else? Or is it like an outdated idea?
I think, like, the examples of, like, Gigi Hadid not being able to have, like, a normal university experience and stuff like that, that's just what the Kardashian children will surely have. Because they've experienced no different. And can you really imagine going to school and being best friends with, like,
Northwest?
And the thing is, there's so many grandchildren now that they're just kind of friends with each other. So maybe there'll just be a big bubble of Kardashian children. Who are just best friends with each other. They've never had a normal existence. The only option for them is, like, public life. But it's sad because they are constantly in the public eye, and, you know, as soon as, like, I think North is one of the oldest. As soon as she wants, like, an Instagram account or anything like that, she's gonna become aware of,
or like
managed 100%, but also become aware of, like, what people are saying about her and, like, the judgments on her body and stuff like that. And that just, like, and that's part of the reason that Kylie has her whole makeup brand now, because so many people, when she was younger, made comments about her appearance and her lips being small. and that's why, like, I guess that's why she has her success partially, so on the upside. But that's a really sad thing to think about, that she felt so, like, ugly growing up.
Yeah.
That it led to her getting surgery and also hiding the fact that she'd had that surgery. But I feel
it's just mental when you think, like, I don't know if they've kind of gone. I'm just thinking about it, like, they became famous for body parts, and that's not the entire reason of their fame. But, like, there was the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. Do you remember that?
Oh,
like,
my
the
God.
Bottles people
Did
would
you
put
ever
on their
do
lips.
it?
I never did it. I was too
never
scared.
did it. It looked, because I had seen the examples of people using, like, glass shot glasses, and
then
it,
they
like, breaking. Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, that's, you know what? I'd rather just have my normal lips and live in safety. But yeah.
But, like, she's famous for her lips. Kim's famous for her body.
Yeah.
And her, like, this impossible.
And her bum.
And her bum.
Like, there's all the speculation. Is the bum real? It's definitely not. But
obviously not. There's no part of their bodies. Like, they've seen the transformation Chloe has gone through.
I'm sorry, but Chloe, I know this is the joke with Chloe. She is a different person every week. And whether that's Photoshop or whatever, like,
oh my God.
You know, what is an ordinary person meant to think when they're looking at that and they're like, who is this human? I mean, literally, there was a whole article I read on BuzzFeed, I think, the other week about how she'd put an Instagram up and everyone thought it was Kylie in the picture.
Oh my God.
Like, everyone was commenting, like, scroll down, and I thought this was Kylie. It wasn't until I saw that it was, like, Chloe's name.
Oh my God.
That I realized. And there's, like, okay, there's looking like your sisters, but Chloe's... The thing about Chloe is she's never looked like her sister.
No,
that was why there was always the joke that... Well, not the joke. I'm sure it wasn't enjoyable for her, but the theory that she was OJ's child. Which is not enjoyable for her to be hearing that. But yeah, I don't know. They're definitely Kardashians. Worth discussing.
They really are.
And, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's a sensitive topic because it is incredible what they've done. Even if it's just for themselves, but it is incredible. I'm sure there is stuff they do behind the scenes that we don't know about. I hope there is, at least.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is imperative that when we discuss them, we don't do it in a sexist way, because there is a lot of successful men out there that, you know, we don't criticize for how they got their success or...
If you think about, do we know how Jeff Bezos got his success? No, we don't. We just know that he's going to be the next trillionaire, and he's this bald, frog-looking man, but no one cares.
I dislike Jeff Bezos a lot more than like 100%. I at least have some respect for the Kardashians. Jeff Bezos could end world hunger
in like a day,
and still have like the majority of his wealth.
He could end climate change. He could literally. Why is he hoarding so much wealth? What's he doing with it?
Yeah, and if we're talking about like plastic surgery in rich people, we don't really discuss enough how what's his name? Oh, it's the guy who's married to Grimes. Not married to Grimes.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. We don't really discuss enough how Elon Musk used to look before he got all the money.
The receding hairline?
Yeah. We're not really mentioning that. It's all about like, oh, the Kardashians got so much surgery. Look at what he used to look like pre-money. I'm like... Yeah,
there's a picture where it's him and it must be the other person set up PayPal.
But we don't really hear about. He's probably a lovely person, maybe.
Maybe.
Let's hope so.
His hairline, he must, like, it was, I don't know how many years ago it was. It must have been at least 10 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe longer. And his hairline is, going back into his scalp.
He's not doing well. He was not doing, and we don't talk about that. So I do think Kardashians worth talking about, but they're don't get sexist.
Don't hyper focus on their bodies. Like, try and have some distance from it. I think whatever, you know, they're made for shock, and they're made, and that's how they make their money.
I mean,
if you like them, but if they provide you entertainment, if they provide you
We're not going to take that away from you.
No, absolutely not.
I said at the beginning, I enjoy watching a show called Dress to Impress. I'm not going to hate on anyone for liking the Kardashians. If that brings you happiness, okay. Like,
yeah.
I do respect them. At the end of the day, I have some respect for them, what they've managed to do, career-wise, out of pretty much nothing.
Out of literally nothing. They got semi-famous because their dad, what's it called, defended O.J. Simpson on the stand. And I would recommend watching
the show
versus O.J.
Oh my, I love that show.
It's got Sarah Paulson. Yeah, it's got
David
Ross
Schwimmer.
From Friends. Yeah.
David Schwimmer. I think this show has. Listen, Ross and Friends, terrible person.
He's a terrible person.
But the acting, because David Schwimmer actually a really good guy in real life.
Yeah, he plays Robert Kardashian, and he's
apparently also he's incredible in that show. Also in Madagascar, incredible.
He is.
Melman. But apparently, I read something about a woman that was interviewed him once, and he made her feel very comfortable, and they were in a cafe or something, or a restaurant in a hotel, and it got very busy, and he said that they could continue the interview in his room if she wanted, but he knew that she may be uncomfortable with that, so she could bring someone with her, or they could not do it. Apparently he made her feel very respected.
No, that is a consent king, and also aware of what the perception is, especially in the Me Too age. And that's, they've got to all meet the bar now. I think that with all this stuff, that you can't get away with being a bad person anymore.
I know. Have you seen, sorry, this is probably a topic for another podcast, but have you seen all this stuff that's come out against Ellen DeGeneres' show?
I've heard some rumblings, but I feel like it's gotten
big.
Has it got big?
So, you may know this about me. This will be our closing conversation, I feel. Just a little bit of conversation from culture this week. That was something I just came up with.
I like that. It's a new segment.
Conversations from culture this week instead of from years ago. You probably know this, Holly, was obsessed with listening to the Reddit threads on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I was watching a lot, like about a year ago, about celebrities that aren't actually nice. It's got a better title than that, but
like Oprah and Ellen.
Yeah, Ellen always turns up on them.
Yeah.
Anytime there is something about celebrities who aren't nice, Ellen is always on them. And don't believe everything you hear, but there is a lot about her not wanting people to look her in the eye.
Ooh.
Which, I know, always is bad to me. Anyway, I haven't researched this, but I've read a lot about it this week about so there was originally a BuzzFeed article where they'd interviewed a bunch of people who used to work for her, and they basically said that it was a terrible working environment. And then more and more stuff came out. There's been a lot of instances of sexual misconduct and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
That have come out. And racism, lots of that. And so now people are demanding she be held accountable. For that. And obviously there was the stuff at the beginning of all this coronavirus malarkey, when I think she made her staff go on reduced wages, even though they were continuing the show.
Oh my God!
So there was no reason. And again, this may not all be fact because I haven't researched it beforehand, but I think that was what happened. She did a couple of problematic things back then. Also, was she not part of the Imagine video?
Oh, she was. And then she also did that video where she was complaining about how bored she was.
That was
and everyone was like, "Oh, it must be so hard you being in your fucking mansion,
really,
bored."
If coronavirus did anything, it really made us not be tolerant of rich people.
No.
Because we don't want to hear that you're bored with your acres and acres of garden and your swimming pool
and probably horses and stuff. Shut up.
My family are always, especially when we were in quarantine, kept saying how lucky we were to have our garden.
Yeah, we were saying
some people don't have a garden, so they couldn't sit outside and stuff like that. And it was very warm here at the beginning of quarantine.
Yeah, it really was.
So if we felt that privilege to have our garden, and Ellen sat there complaining about nothing to do, she's probably got a massive swimming pool, and she lives with her lovely wife,
Yeah.
who like I would kill to live with because she was on Arrested Development, and she's
Portia.
stunning. Yeah, there's a lot of like well, they're not allegations, but speculations about their relationship too that I think you can find on Reddit. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'll send you some screenshots, but I don't want to go into it in case anyone listens to this and they're like, that is not correct.
We'll do some research and then we might.
Maybe we'll revisit this. Yeah, so if anyone is listening to this, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you did. Our like intention for this was that we would, no matter what, we would have a nice chat as friends, do what we usually do, and if anyone listens to it, that's a benefit. We would love that. Even if it's just one person, we would be able to make a new friend. We will make a new friend. So
yeah.
So yes, thank you if you have listened to this.
And I hope you return next week.
Yes, because this will be weekly.
We're not doing it weekly yet.
We don't have much else to do. Two graduates graduating in a world of coronavirus.
Pandemic.
So with a degree in English literature. So you can guess how well that's going. Yeah. Thank you if anyone has listened.
Yes, thank you.
Because we really enjoyed this, or I did.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So I'm excited to do more.
Yeah.
And we'll pick a theme for next week. It'll be great. So I'll see you next week, Holly, for a delightful chat.
See you next week.
Okay.